Hello and welcome to another edition of the Netcast. Today I'm delighted to welcome Matt Coleman, our Deputy CEO, to join me for a really interesting conversation where we'll find out more about Matt and his journey at the Nene Education Trust. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. You?
Yeah, not so bad, not
Good,
so bad. So, yeah, I've kept you off camera actually. This is your first one, isn't it? I've done well. Normally, obviously, you like to get on camera.
That in part, isn't
But so I thought it'd be really interesting actually for us to have a chat about. We'll go back to sort of the beginnings of the Nene Education Trust and sort of we'll go back to when we first met and how that sort of developed since then. So it was probably, I was trying to work this out, about 6 years ago.
Yep.
When you were head teacher at Windmill Primary School. I was head teacher at Hime Ferrers Junior School, and there was a football tournament or something happening at Manor School on the 3G pitch.
There was,
and I think that's where we first introduced ourselves to each other. I don't think we knew then that we'd be sat here now as CEO and Deputy CEO of the Nene Education Trust.
Correct. Well, back then, these jobs probably didn't even exist, really, did they?
No.
So yeah, it's evolved a lot over time.
So it's interesting. So how for you, how's it gone from there to here now? And I guess it's been quite an interesting journey over that time.
Yeah, massively so. So I was head at Windmill, as you say, so bringing Windmill into the what was Manor Learning Trust at the time, which very quickly rebranded as Nene Education Trust, was interesting in itself because Windmill was part of another multi-academy trust previously. So lots of difficult political discussions and the landscape was tricky. We made the right call for the school, moved into the trust. At the same time as that happening, you were the incoming interim chief exec at the time, before becoming the permanent CEO. So lots of change, lots of adaptation. I think one of the really exciting things for me about what Nene Education Trust offered was a very, very local group of schools, all serving similar communities. Geographically local is the key thing. You know, all of our schools are still within 10 miles of each other, and with the central office space right bang in the middle of it as well. So to have that opportunity with a secondary school as well, where most of our primary schools feed into that secondary school, was really exciting. And coming in from the beginning of the rebrand, as I said, when Nene Education Trust came to life, allowed me to work closely alongside you throughout to shape what we looked like and what we've become, I think.
And it would be fair to say that obviously as your roles changed over those years, you've learned a lot about how to transition from being in a school where you're a school leader and you have a direct day-to-day impact on young people and members of staff, to a role where you are more removed now from that day-to-day school aspect. But how's that felt, and has that been just interesting how people might learn from that for themselves to move from school leadership into more of a system leadership role?
Yeah, well, if I go back another step, even going from being a class teacher, where you've got your class of 30 or so young people day in, day out, to then being a school leader, so a deputy head teacher in my case, and then becoming head teacher in 2015 at Windmill. Even there, you're a bit more removed from that sort of day-to-day feeling of interacting with young people. Moving into a system leadership role, and again, it happened very quickly to go from being a primary school head teacher, which is very operational. You're bound by the school day. The school gates open, the bell goes, your day starts. You go for a wee at break time. You have a cup of tea at lunchtime. You've got that routine. At the end of the school day, the children leave, everything settles for a few minutes, and then the meetings start to kick in, etc. So that's almost very regimented. There's a regime to it. Moved into the Director of Primary Education role not long after you took up post, which initially I was balancing both roles. I was being the head teacher at Windmill and doing the Director of Primary. And you and I had a very honest conversation. I said, look, this is a tough gig. I'm trying to be operational and all things to all people in the day-to-day role, but also do this more strategic system leadership role. So we made the call to move fully into the Director of Primary role. And I'll be really honest, the first probably, and you know this because I spoke to you very openly, the first probably 9 to 12 months of that job, I found it really difficult. Very lonely, very isolated. I'd gone from being surrounded by a team of great people day in, day out, my school family, as it were, to being quite quite vulnerable and on my own. And I questioned a lot of things in that time. And interestingly, around about the same time was when COVID hit. So that loneliness was just exaggerated, and you know, it kind of just built on the fact of I'm in a job where I feel a bit isolated. I'm doing quite well at it, but again, that was a new role in the world of education. You know, a director of any part of education was a new thing. Multi-academy trusts are still relatively new in the grand scheme of things. So these jobs didn't exist. There wasn't a blueprint for what they looked like. So I was building on this kind of fairly vulnerable, lonely feeling. Then lockdown hit, where we all just went into a complete
a whole new world of doing things differently.
Absolutely, and again to feel that sense of isolation. Without getting too deep, it taught me a lot about myself. I had to sit in that pit of kind of this is me, and I've just got to work it out for myself. You know, and I very much did. I looked inward. I did a lot of work on myself, and have done over the past few years. So in a weird kind of way, that change from operational day-to-day school leadership, which filled me up completely, and that was everything I focused on. You know, I put everything into that. To now coming into moving into assistant leadership role. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a great believer in that, and it forced me to do that work on myself, to be more comfortable in who I am and what I stand for.
And now you've been doing that for a few years, which you have, and obviously very successfully, and developed a really strong school improvement team as part of the Nene Education Trust, and all of our schools have continued to improve. So that must give you great satisfaction, I'm sure.
It does. I think when you, and we don't do it very often as leaders in this system particularly, when you step back and look at where we were to where we are now, there is that sense of pride. One of the biggest things that I feel that I'm very good at, and I get a lot of satisfaction from, is developing people, working alongside individuals. You know, because that's what makes the world go round. You know, working with really highly skilled people, and we've got some wonderful people in our trust. But developing people, seeing others grow and flourish, and that's what leadership is. You know, it isn't about me doing all the doing now. It's about supporting and allowing, enabling, developing, coaching, all those words, other people to be better human beings and better at their job. And I think to go back to the question, if we look at where we were as an organisation to where we are now, there's so many things to be proud of. And the thing that I always come back to is that you and I particularly do not veer from our values and what sits in here, and that's massive. We can't, you know, that I can go to bed at night knowing that yes, there may be difficult decisions that have to be made, tricky conversations that have to happen, because it isn't easy. It's not all hearts and flowers. You know, as I said, developing people and dealing with people is great, but also that's the biggest challenge of the job. People are weird. You know, we come across difficult situations all the time. We're a very unique species. So it's having that balance all the time, but sticking true to what is in here and what matters the most.
So, and as we've said in many of the sort of leadership development opportunities that you've led on it or worked on with other people, is that culture, those leadership values that actually pregnate themselves through the whole organisation into other people.
Correct.
And that's what, from sort of my position, that's what I've seen you be able to do with other people. So whether that's with the school improvement team or the school leaders or other leaders or other teachers in the school, that message and that consistency comes through all the time, and that's you know, that's a joy to see, isn't it? When you actually,
I think so.
And I think on many occasions you probably hear some of that your own language coming back to you.
Yeah, that's good.
And there's been a few phrases which we hear every now and then coming round, which other people like.
Sure, and that's a bit freaky at times, isn't it? When you hear other people saying things that you're saying to them. And that's the thing. We're in a hugely privileged position as well to be able to influence a wide range of individuals at various different levels as well.
It is amazing.
It's a real privilege.
So you've had obviously highlights and challenges, and you obviously said around some of the challenges and the highlights are sort of very close to each other, aren't they?
I think so.
In many ways. But what do you think makes the Nene Education Trust special then? What is it that makes you get up in the morning, want to add value to what you're doing as part of this trust and these group of schools?
Well, I think we work within within a sector that is, and I'm not going to sit here and bash education too much, but we're still in a very high stakes, high accountability sector. Fundamentally, whatever Ofsted regime is in place, whatever the Department for Education say, we're bound by, or we're held to account on outcomes for young people, whether that be at the end of early years through to year 1 phonics, year 4 times tables, year 6 tests, GCSEs, A levels, etc., etc. And many would argue that's right, and I'm not going to disagree with that. But we do, often we're almost encouraged to narrow things to enable young people to succeed and to get good results. And I would want that for my own kids, of course, and I want that for as many kids in an education trust. I think the thing that makes me most proud is that we never lose sight of that in our organisation, but we do, and we don't just say it, we do it. We have this whole focus around the whole child. So there are wider opportunities for young people who are growing up into a world that is scary. Let's be honest. I've got 2 kids. I know you've got your children. You want to protect your kids, but also you need them to understand that actually there's a skill set they need to have and an understanding of the world.
So that's giving them the skills and the tools to deal with the world around them, isn't it? And make the right choices and be there to guide and support. So that's the challenge, isn't it? That's a huge challenge.
And I think that's the privilege of the position we're in. That's the privilege of whether you're a teaching assistant, a teacher, deputy head, whatever role you're in. That's the privilege we have. We can influence and support our young people to have that wider, more global understanding. And I think that's something that, I won't say we get it right all the time. There's still those tricky conversations around data and around outcomes, and rightly so. But I think holistically, there is a mindset within our organisation that there is more to life than exam results, and we've got to develop our young people and the people in our whole organisation to be better equipped for the world they're going into.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, it's very interesting. I'm obviously you know this, but you are very well respected within our organisation, but also outside as well, and you have extremely positive relationships with all people that you work with. But I'm a bit intrigued and interested, sort of what's developed and evolved you as who you are as a leader. You spoke about it before, about obviously when you change role, you learn a lot and you have to adapt and learn new skills. I'm quite interested around the biggest influences on you. So we normally ask people questions like, who would you bring to dinner? So I'm going to sort of twist that round a little bit. So if you were to sit down and have a dinner party with your biggest influences that have had a really positive impact on you in your life, who would those people be? And just sort of a bit of the why, really, because you are a phenomenal leader that is so positive and develops that empowerment in other people. That doesn't just happen. So how has that happened?
Thank you, that's really kind of you to say. And it's as if I prepared for this question, so I'll give you my answers. So the first person would be a gentleman called Pete Sturgis, who was my first head teacher. I think you know Pete, I think. So he was the first head teacher at Moulton Primary School, where I first went as a teacher. So I interviewed terribly. He took a punt on me. He clearly saw something, decided to employ me as a teacher there, and shaped me, guided me as a teacher, helped me to become a half decent teacher. But more than that, I think watching him as a leader, he was kind, he was understanding, he was empathetic, he was incredibly supportive, and I could give you so many anecdotal examples of occasions where he helped me out or he set me on the right path. When it's tricky. You're a young person going into what is a challenging profession, and watching him as a human being, as a leader, and what he stood for, that really set me up really well.
Brilliant.
On a similar theme, but somebody outside of education, there was a chap called Rob Marchment who I happened to meet when I was head at Windmill. Bizarrely, he came in to lead an assembly linked to the Canal and Rivers Trust or something. I don't know why he was involved in that, but he came in to lead an assembly. And and we got talking. I then, and it was clear that we had a very similar, he was old enough to be my dad, and he became very much a father figure to me, until he sadly died a few years ago, and that really, there's bereavements that get you, and that one really got me. Like that was very difficult to take, and there's not really a day goes by that I don't think about him and the influence he had on me. He wasn't in education for all of his career. What Rob taught me was that it's okay to mess up, and to own your mistakes, and to be vulnerable, but to be honest with that as well. Again, I think I spoke earlier about sitting in that pit of loneliness. Well, he was there for me, I would say, at probably one of my darkest times, without judgment, without any sort of, he was just there, and he listened, and he supported, and he almost was like a guardian angel. He just gave me that, like he was there just to keep propping me up. So I do miss him dearly, and he really, again, he was a really, really good person, strong values intrinsically. So he really, really supported me to be a better leader, and saw the good things that I was doing as well.
But that, some of the things you just said there, I hear them coming out, the thing around, you can make mistakes, but own it. I hear you saying that to people. Own it, be honest. We learn. We take the opportunities to learn from the mistakes we make. No one comes to work to deliberately make a mistake or get it wrong. But so some of those things, without knowing that that's the type of thing you learn from him, I hear that coming from.
I think it's that, and I've done, as you know, I do lots of reading around things, and I listen to lots of things, and it's that idea that as human beings we're perfectly imperfect. So we are going to. Not one of us, gets everything right all the time, and again, without getting too deep and philosophical, we've got to accept that, and that's a big thing. Third person for me would be again somebody who helped me in a time of probably crisis. A lady called Rachel Mallows, who so locally she's I think we'd probably say she's a bit of a Northamptonshire legend. She's very big in the food and drink industry, very well respected, very well known. Again, as a coach, as a mentor, as somebody to listen and guide and support and put me on the right track. She's always been there, and she really helped me out just to help me work out who I am. Again, I know it's getting quite deep, but I think these are really important things to be understanding. So they're three very close influences on me in my sort of career development. Fourthly, for me, because I'm hugely inspired by him and what he stands for as a leader, is a chap called Russell Martin, who is the current manager at Southampton Football Club. He and I were introduced by a mutual friend several years ago, and again had similar values, stand for similar things. But what he's done in a world that is, the football world is quite archaic. It's full of a lot of dinosaurs that do what they've always done. Russ has stood up and has said, no, actually, we're going to do it differently. And this is what I believe, and I've got a philosophy, and I'm going to stick to it. So what he stands for, it's hugely inspirational. And I look at that and I take a great deal of heart from that. And when I speak to him, I feel very honoured and privileged to have those conversations with him, but it also kind of helps me to keep sort of staying true to what I believe as well.
And I suppose that, and as well as that, obviously as a big sports fan yourself, that probably that dream that if you hadn't been a teacher, you might have been a professional footballer.
Well, it's still on there. It's still on, Chris. The boot's still sitting in the back of my car. You never know.
I've seen the photos of you with injured knees and all that sort of
waiting for that call up. The dream's still on. I could play.
But you never know.
England vets one day.
Veterans
maybe,
teams might happen there, but
yeah.
no. And again, we've benefited as well from Russ's experience by contributing to the leadership programs that we've been delivering recently. So all those good people find more good people and come together to create an even greater thing.
And I think that's the other thing, often we don't, but sometimes in education you can get into a bit of a vacuum of, we can only talk to people who work in schools or who work in trusts, and that's it. And you can glean so much from external people as well. And people are people, leadership is leadership. There's so many crossovers between the world of football, the world of education, the world of business, whatever. There are interlinks all the time. And then finally at the table, I'd have to have Lucy and my two kids. So Lucy, my wife, who she understands me better than anybody. She's made that choice to really understand me and to come with me, supporting me throughout my career and my life. And I wouldn't be the person that I am and and be what I am without her and what she's done for me. So again, I won't get too emotional or deep and philosophical, but I'm very grateful to have a wonderful wife and two wonderful young children who, Ollie and Ada, are just they're so different, but they're great kids, and they are the thing that fills me up and drives everything that I do.
As it should be.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing those, inner thoughts and feelings. And I was starting to get emotional then with you talking about all those, because we talk about being vulnerable, but actually that's just about being who you are. Being that's you. Mm-hmm. Now you couldn't not be like that anyway. That's you as a human being. Yeah. That comes through in everything you do, which is why you have such an influence on other people, because you have that credibility and genuine determination and realism that what you say, people know it comes from the heart, but actually is with all the best intentions. Which is why obviously it's, you and I work extremely well together, as you would expect as the CEO and the deputy CEO. But it isn't just about work. Like all those people you've spoken about there's some other sort of human connection, isn't there, as well, which makes it come to life and makes it real. So I mean, it's absolutely, from my perspective, really interesting to hear those thoughts and the progression through, and I know that we're lucky to have you work for the Nene Education Trust, all the children and families and the communities that you have an influence on. I'm sure also think the same thing, but thank you so much for joining me this morning for this lovely conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Netcast. If you'd like to join us in the future, please get in touch.